Wrestling with the Champ.
Where are you right now? You in Brooklyn? You in New York? Which part? Hoboken? Where are you?
I'm in my brand new apartment out in Manhattan, kind of like in Midtown Manhattan in New York.
So like Sex and the City territory.
Oh, definitely Sex and the City territory. I've never really seen that show, but I feel like I'm like a saucy mix like those ladies in that show.
But like your apartment looks, is it just that you've got a really good camera, or is your apartment pretty big? Because I imagine everyone lives in like a shoebox in New York.
So I'm actually a very lucky person. I live with my brother, who's like my sugar daddy. He has a nice size apartment that I'm luckily allowed to be like the dumb comedian who crashes with him. So that's kind of like my whole lifestyle.
And so, like, just talk to me about the show that you've been doing at the minute, because you're doing this show, which kind of like you've got like 28 stories on a whiteboard.
Oh,
and
you
yeah. So I've been watching you because like, so let's plug your socials first of all, so people can see these. So if you want to find you on like Instagram or wherever, they need to go to.
The Joey Rinaldi. My name with the before it, so it's just the Joey Rinaldi.
Okay. Is there another Joey Rinaldi out there who would be upset about that going, hey, I'm the Joey Rinaldi?
Dude, I'm actually fucking pissed. Like, there's this person named Joey Rinaldi whose Instagram account is Joey Rinaldi, and he has not posted since like 2014. I fucking DM him like every day. I'm like, motherfucker, can you please change your name so I can use this, because I'm active on Instagram. You're a little bitch ass pussy not active, and he doesn't respond, he doesn't read. I don't think he even uses his account. I don't think he could be dead for all I know. All I know is, so I'm the Joey Rinaldi because this asshole won't.
I mean, he may be dead. If you get your hands on him, he will be dead. I think we can establish that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to channel my Eric's character in order to kick his ass.
So we met in Edinburgh when we were doing our first
variety show.
Yeah, so we did this crazy variety show, and at the time you were doing a show which we may come back to a little bit later, but you've got a brand new show at the minute which seems like it can literally, it's almost like halfway between not quite improv, but like the audience choose where it goes.
Yeah, it's basically a choose your own adventure comedy show. So I have tons of stories that I incorporate in my storytelling show, and I got into a couple like festivals and a couple of theaters booked me to do solo shows, but I did a whole year of touring with the show that you saw called Potty Training, which is basically about my broken penis. Which my penis, it's not broken anymore. It was only from when I was 14 years old, it was broken for 6 months. So I made a whole comedy, because I have a rule. If a comedian breaks their penis, you have to make a show about it, because that's like, what else are you doing with your life? But after doing that show for a full year, I didn't want to do that anymore. But these theaters and festivals were like, we want you to do a show. So I had all these stories, and I couldn't really puzzle piece these stories into one cohesive show. So instead, I'm like, I'm going to write 3 hours of stories. I'm going to put 3 hours of stories on a whiteboard or like a poster board or a projector, depending on the venue. So like on these poster boards or whiteboards, there'll be all these different story titles. And the story title will be like The MILF on the Train, Arrested in Vermont, Almost Died in Mexico, Found God on Drugs, Peed My Pants when I was 21. You know what I mean? It'd be all these dumb titles. One of them is actually about something that happened recently. It was my breakup at the sex club in Germany. That's another whole thing. My ex-girlfriend and I, we did break up at a sex club in Germany. Very weird story.
I imagine that's quite a good place to move on quite quickly if it does happen.
So I have all these stories on a whiteboard, and like the amount of shows, like stories would take 3 hours to do. So the show is only 1 hour long. So the audience has to decide which stories they want to hear in that 1 hour. And it's been going amazing. Like every show has been like selling out, thankfully. And what's fun about it is if you come to my show and you really want to hear, I don't know, the broken penis story and you didn't hear it, these people will buy tickets the next day and come again.
Wow.
So they could hear the next story. Like, so that's kind of cool.
So I guess from a performer's point of view as well, it's maybe like a double-edged sword in that you no two nights are going to be the same. It's always going to be different. There's always different interaction from the crowd. There's going to be a big interaction, but also there are. I mean, I'm still like very early doors in this, but when you're performing, you have certain beats that you hit, and you kind of know where you are in time, and it's like kind of going like almost like your A, B, C, D, and so is that a little bit like
it's
scary?
The most challenging part. It's the most challenging part because I want to do a good show for these people, and I also want them to get as many stories as possible. So like what happens is like the first story they'll ask me to tell, I'll tell it like let's say it's a 15-minute story. I'll tell the proper 15-minute story. But then as the time is moving and they want me to tell a 20-minute story and I know I only have like 15 minutes left, I have to now turn that 20-minute story into a 50-minute story. And I'm kind of writing and editing on the fly, which is miraculously actually cutting a lot of the fat off. Like, because as a comedian, you overwrite and you want to tell every part of the thing because in your mind it's all fucking perfect. But when you get to the actual audience, you're like, you know what? Only half of that was actually good and the other half was okay. And so because I have limited time to tell these stories, I'm actually making these stories better than if I was just home writing. Does that make sense? I'm like
absolutely.
writing on stage.
Yeah. That's but also then because you're moving on from so many different things and. How do you worry that you're not going to remember it all? Do you like when you come off stage, you're like, I've got to write this down. I've got to remember to get this.
So I audio record and I audio record every show and I try to video record as many shows as possible. And I do the thing that all of us hate to do. I'll listen and watch myself like with the notepad and like take notes immediately after the show.
Wow.
Like I had some shows where I said such crazy shit in the moment that I was like, I went straight back to my Airbnb or my hotel and I literally, the first thing I did was listen to it. I'm like, what the fuck did I just say?
So with the stories, like you said, you start off, you tell the story in full and then you should get through to it. There must be times when you've got like literally, I imagine you have like a big clock counting down behind you.
Yeah. I that's exactly what I do.
Like, so people have laughed, they've had a great night, and there's like one guy has wanted to hear this story, and you've got 45 seconds left. I mean, what's the shortest time you've had?
I had 2 minutes. I had 2 minutes once to tell a story that's 10 minutes long, and the story is called My First Kiss. And so it's actually a 10-minute story, but I can tell you what I did. I can do it right now.
Yeah, go.
The 2-minute version I did was basically this. I was like, the first time I kissed a girl was at my little sister's first Holy Communion party. Why were you there? Great question. Thank you for asking. What happened was my parents are crazy and they invite everybody they know to every party. And so there's so many people there. I don't even know anyone at these family parties. So I think I'm not related to anybody. So I see this girl with boobs and she's 11. I'm 11. I'm like, I didn't know 11-year-olds had boobs. So I went right up to her and I was like, you want to get out of here, you crazy son of a bitch? She was like, yeah. Next thing I know, I'm outside making out with this girl. I'm about to touch my first boob I'm ever going to touch in my whole entire life. I'm 11 years old. I'm like literally about to jizz my pants. And as I go to touch this girl boobs, my cousin Anthony comes outside and goes, why are my cousins making out?
Wow. And you had to compress that in the moment on the fly
so that's a 10-minute story with a lot of like crazy shit happening. But in my head, I was like, all I need to establish is my first kiss was at a family party, and that it turned out to be my cousin. Like, how do I do that as fast as possible? And that's
in that moment, you must feel like Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible movie.
You know what? No, I'll never. It's funny you say that though, because my cousin is a badass. Not the cousin I kissed. Right, not the cousin I kissed, and not the cousin that called me out. A totally different cousin. My cousin Kevin. He is an Air Force like pilot, badass dude. Like he like is like a top dude in the U.S. military Air Force or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but he's like a badass, and like he does crazy, badass, intense shit. And you know what he said to me once? He was describing to me like a life or death situation he was in the Air Force. Right. And he was like, Joey, you know what that's like, because I'm sure comedy feels very life or death when you're doing like stuff last minute on the fly. And I'm like, you're an asshole. At no point is comedy ever life or death to that extreme. You like I almost feel insulted that like I feel like he was mocking me. I'm like, you like I think he was trying to be nice, but I didn't take it as him being nice. I was like, you're an asshole. Don't get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are two businesses where people talk about death all the time, but when we're talking about dying on stage, they're talking about dying in combat, and they really mean it. They really mean it. But on that, like in terms of like some of the stories that you tell, like so the first time we met, we came and we met you on this variety show, and then we came and saw.
Dude, you guys were so fucking funny on that variety show. I was intimidated by you guys because you guys were so big, so loud, so comfortable. Like you understood. I feel like you guys just understood the moment so much. Meanwhile, I'm there. You know the difference between you and me? I was there trying to be funny. You guys were just funny. Like I feel like you guys weren't trying to be funny. You guys were just so naturally yourselves. When I was up there, I was like trying to tell jokes. I was trying to be funny. I was like, "Have you guys? What about airplane food? You know?" Well, you guys were just. You guys, like, I think, did you pick me? I think you picked me up at one point.
I picked somebody up. That
yeah, I think you. like all of a sudden, I'm like, how can I compete telling jokes with this guy who's literally picking me up, making me the joke? Like it was. I loved it. I was mad that I had to be a performer because I wanted to be an audience member just watching you.
Wow, I mean that's very disarming. Thank you, because I guess in that moment, really, like I'm not sure we knew what we were doing. Like in terms of like we'd got onto this variety show, we wasn't sure what it involved. We'd just come off stage doing our show, we'd ran off. Our energy had dropped.
I just came from my show too.
Yeah, and so they called us up and all we had, and sometimes I think that's the thing is when you're tired, it is you when you can't try, you just push it out, and I think that's when it works. I think it's just because all we could do was go into the character, and the character's so big and so bombastic. I think that's what saved us. But my question was going to be to you before you charmed the pants off me there. My question was going to be because like a couple of your stories, especially the story you did your show on, which was breaking your penis, which I'm sure there'll be anybody listening to this will be crossing their legs whether or not they have or have ever had a penis. The fact that if you've gone through that and lived, surely nothing scares you anymore.
No, because like I have this like terrible like way of like my brain I don't think works well because like most people I feel like would feel as you feel like, oh, I broke my penis, nothing again will be as scary as that. For me, anytime I recover from anything, whether it's a sickness or a broken penis, I forget everything immediately, and I'm just like, okay, what's the next thing that's gonna scare me? And like literally I'm like I feel so far removed from that broken penis that like I almost feel like that was a different person in my life. Like, I don't even recognize that person anymore. And I pray every day to never hurt my penis ever again. I'm like more terrified than ever.
I mean,
I think it's I'm also like a neurotic comedian. I think like that comes with the territory.
I mean, like guys are pretty protective over their penises generally. I imagine you're even more so now.
Yeah, I have an athletic cup on all the time.
Well, I actually wear one during the show, and let's speak about that now, actually, because I know like you grew up being a fan of wrestling. So, from a wrestling point of view, like what was your memories of that? As somebody that was spending their childhood breaking their penis, which wasn't through recreating wrestling, but were you a kind of kid that would copy wrestling moves? Who were the guys you looked up to?
So for me, my big three, I loved The Undertaker was my number one guy.
Yeah.
Like that when that motorcycle came bursting in and that loud rock and roll music was on, I would wear a bandana as a kid sometimes to be like The Undertaker. He was the guy. And I feel very lame saying this, but The Rock like was the coolest. Like I felt like I deep down loved The Rock, but I always said Undertaker was my favorite because I didn't want to come across like everybody else. So I was like, fuck The Rock. I like The Undertaker, but I secretly always loved The Rock. And then my third guy, I just thought Rhino was awesome. You remember Rhino?
Yeah.
I just loved when he, you know what it was, when he came in, it would scare me. Like, he was scary because he would just come in and just like a Rhino, just go full speed at people. And I felt like I would channel the Rhino when I was wrestling my older brothers. I had two brothers, and my older cousins. We were all literally, we had like a family barbecue, and like everyone's outside hanging out, and we would all be in the basement of like my grandma's basement, literally having like these bloodbaths, like almost like a fight club in my grandma's basement, just fighting each other. And because I was the youngest boy in my family, my cousins, the whole thing, all my cousins and brothers were older than me. And what they would do is they would literally take their sweaty socks off, put on their hands, and then shove it down my throat.
Whoa.
And that was the finishing move. And so like my early memories of wrestling was just like trying not to get socked in the mouth. They actually did that in WWE. Do you remember that?
With socks? I mean, I can't imagine them being able to get their boots off with all the laces to get socks in there. Who did that?
I forget. It was like a cheap shot move.
Wow.
It was definitely in the video games. In the video games, you could do it.
Wow. Yeah, it's like I'm thinking of Mortal Kombat and the fatalities. They're like a sockality. Sock it to him. Wow. Oh god, that's awful.
It was the worst. It was the worst thing ever. I still have like scars of like my cousins doing that to me.
So
again, not the cousin I kissed.
So we've just done the recording for your guest spot in the podcast, and had this very interesting phase where you were making all these noises of being beaten up. But I mean, if it's not too traumatic for you, like have you ever been in an actual real fight? Have you ever been beaten up? Like,
so one time, so me and my best friend, like one of my best friends in the world, and like he's like my comedian brother. Like me and him, he's my comedy brother. My friend Troy Bond, who is actually like, he's like, look him up. He's like getting famous now. You probably already know him. He's like huge now. Troy and I, when we first started doing comedy, before I started doing these one-man shows, before Troy started becoming a TikTok star, me and him were working the shittiest comedy club in New York City called Broadway Comedy Club. And this is what happened. There was these guys from out of town. There was like probably like 7 or 8 of them, and they had like 3 or 4 girls with them. So it was a group of like 12 people. And they were just ordering Long Island iced teas. Do you know what a Long Island iced tea is?
Yeah.
They have those in the UK?
Yeah. You get those, yeah. So it's like one of those puts you over the drink drive limit. Like it's just like
So they were ordering Long Island iced teas the whole show.
Wow.
So the whole group was like incoherently blackout drunk during the whole show. And I went up there and I made fun of them. Troy went up there and he made fun of them. And the show's over and everyone leaves. The comedy club locks up. It's like an hour after the show ends, and we think it's time to leave. As we go to leave, they're all outside waiting for us. They've been waiting for us for over an hour.
Shit.
And we're outnumbered. And they start fucking punching us in the face, kicking us, all this shit. One of the fucking waiters who works there, he comes out with like a chair and is like fucking hitting them with a folding chair like in the wrestling movies. One of the audience members that hated them, like one of the nice audience members, comes out of nowhere with nunchucks and starts fighting these guys off for us. It was crazy. And this is what happens. One of the biggest guys there has this little Asian girlfriend. And the little Asian girlfriend and this big guy, they both start charging me at the same time. And he goes to punch me in the face. And as he goes to punch me in the face, I duck. And as I duck, he punches his girlfriend in the face, and her tooth and her blood shoots out of her mouth. In that same moment, the police show up to stop the fight. She goes up to the cop and goes, officer, this comedian punched my tooth out, pointing to me.
Wow.
And this the cop does. I love the cop. The cop is hilarious. He picks up my hand. He picks up her boyfriend's bloody hand and he points at me and goes, "This guy has never been in a fight in his life. His hands are beautiful. This guy's hands literally have blood on it. This guy punched your teeth out."
Wow. I don't think we could get any higher than that. Joey Rinaldi has beautiful hands. I think you need to get that cop's quote on your next poster. Joey, if people want to come out and see you, find out more about you, obviously you're in New York, but you're doing shows all over. You were in the UK last year. The best place for people to follow you or find out about you on your Instagram?
Yeah, go on Instagram. I'm the Joey Rinaldi. I post all my shows there. I don't know if you have any American listeners, but if you're ever in New York City, I run an awesome storytelling comedy show called Bad Trip. We do it all around Brooklyn and Manhattan and New Jersey. We're even going to Boston next month. So if you're in America, hit me up. Come to one of my shows and let's get a beer.
Let's do that, man. Joey, thanks so much for being an amazing guest. Or as you're always going to be known in the Champ universe now, Eric Sean, thank you.
Eric Sean, that's who I am, baby.
Massive Eric Sean.
Massive. More sexual ASMR from my neighbors.
Dude, honestly, that the story of us recording this is going to be on one of your shows when we come to New York one day. It's going to be...
Dude, do a live podcast in New York. It'll be awesome.
Mate, we're going to make it happen. So we like setting, what do they call them? Big, stupid, audacious goals, for things. And so we just go next step ahead. So we started the podcast and it was like, wouldn't it be great if we did a photo shoot? And then we did the photo shoot and it's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did a live show? And we got the live show and it's like, wouldn't it be great if we did Edinburgh? And then... now we're like, okay,
keep
doing it, yeah. So now I've just had to up the game. So the next thing is, wouldn't it be great to do the Super Bowl halftime show? That's what we're working towards.
well, let me come out as Eric Sean, and I'll do a cameo at the Super Bowl.
Let's do it, baby.
All right, I know you got to get out of here, so I'll let you go. I'll see you later, my man. Hey guys, it's your boy, Massive Eric Sean, the SMA Shopping Mall Alliance champion. Thanks for following me on Instagram. I hope you like my account. I got a bunch of photos on here I think you'll love. If you're looking for videos, they're over on my OnlyFans account. And the link's in the bio. Cool? So let's get started with my Wrestlers in Cars Showing Scars, my newest hit web series. Hope you guys have got a strong stomach. You see, this one's actually kind of my favorite one. I call it Big Tom. It's my first ever wrestling scar. That's right. I earned this stripe against the Ginger Ninja. Yeah, I won't say anything bad about him. I'll leave that to the other 900 people he ripped open during his career. But now Big Tom runs between my nipples down to there. Well, let's just say if you stroke it with your fingers, you can make something happen. See the full video on my subscriber page. And don't forget to leave a tip if you like my tip. Like, subscribe, share, and stay sexy, San Diego. Thanks, guys.
Wrestling with the Champ.